So today we shall be talking about the newest addition to Disney Plus, the movie that everyone has been talking about for good or bad reasons, Hocus Pocus 2. This movie sees the return of the Sanderson sisters after 30 years of not being on the screen as they return in this movie, and it is amazing. Guess why? Because another idiot lit the black flame candle and we're back in the same situation as the first movie. The Sanderson sisters are back. Let's get into this. So what I first want to talk about in this movie and get off my chest straight away is that this movie was a little bit decent. And when I say a little bit decent, there's a lot to hate about this movie and there's a few things to love about this movie. And we're going to start off with a few of the good things, in which I thought it was quite good how they was able to modernise this particular movie. As I know that from watching Hocus Pocus 1, it is very outdated compared to this generation, if you get me, because a lot has happened in the past 10 or 20 years, or 30 years nearly, since this movie came out, as mobile phones are now a thing. You have lots of new gadgets, lots of crazy little cosmetics that we've got going on at the minute, and it's just the new generation thing. And I think this movie was made so that we could see how the Sanderson sisters would be able to adapt in the modern era compared to the 90s. Because the 90s, to me, there was a lot that was different, because the biggest surprise was to the witches wasn't the fancy gadgets, because there weren't many of them. It was mainly the fact that there was road in the original one, whereas this one, it wasn't like that at all. It was more the fact that, look at these trees, look at all this machinery and shit that's going on at the minute, and that's what was the thing. And I loved how the Sanderson sisters interacted with the automatic door, thinking it was sort of like a passage that the devil opened or something like that. And that really, went, that was pretty funny. But apart from that, there weren't many funny moments in this movie, but that was something I really enjoyed. And I thought this was brilliant, as the new viewers need to see Hocus Pocus. For many people, like myself, I grew up watching the original, because my parents grew up in the 90s and 80s and saw through some of these great movies that most of my movies that I've reviewed have been shown to me as a kid and things like that. This one in particular was one of those movies that you would sit down in Halloween, the first Hocus Pocus, and for many this will be what Hocus Pocus 2, which Disney was hoping would be the next catalyst for them sitting down every Halloween and watching Hocus Pocus 2. However, I don't think many people will be doing that after watching this movie, but more on that a little bit later on. But yeah, I thought that it was quite cool how they went about this in the modern era. Moving on ever so slightly then from, the technology side of things, I also really enjoyed how the witches came back via the girls being tricked, as the girls didn't realize that's what they were doing. They thought it was a candle that was gifted to them on their 16th birthday, and that it was a present. However, the guy that gave them was called Gilbert, and he did this because he saw the Sanderson sisters back in 1993 and felt that they were misunderstood, whatever that means, and he basically gave them the candle and wanted them to come back so he could enjoy what they bring and everything like that. So he tricked them, because obviously he can't do it because he's a virgin. He's not a virgin, whereas they are. So they light the candle, bosh, and they come back, unrealizing to them that this was a black flame candle, and brought them back. And I thought this was brilliant. A little bit of a different sort of style from the original, as in the original, if everyone remembers, is just a guy being a dickhead and showing off, oh, witches aren't real, bosh, and then they come back. Whereas this one's a lot different, in which separates it a little bit, but connects them with the black flame candle. Furthermore, I really enjoyed how this movie was a little bit nostalgic, as there were times during this movie, as there was hints of the old movie, the one that came before, as we saw the musical numbers and dance numbers in this particular movie. As we saw, the witches are back right at the beginning, gets you straight in, bosh, as soon as the witches return, witches are back, okay, win with a decent song number here. Then they sing one way or another halfway through the movie, in which sort of is a bit of nostalgia for us all to tuck into, as they did that in the original movie, start singing and dancing. However, this is the part where I don't really like, because to me, instead of singing One Way or Another by Blondie, why didn't they sing the original song from the original movie, which was I Put a Spell on You? Because to me, that would have been better. That would have been like, oh, like for all of us watching who watched the original, that would have been like, that gets an extra point in this review, or this gets an extra point in my mind watching it, thinking there's a bit of nostalgia in there. However, they could have done that, and I think people would have enjoyed it a little bit better, even if it was just full of nostalgia and not much story, as the story wasn't that great anyways. And also, I can't move on from the nostalgia aspect without talking about Billy returning. And it was great to mix him up in the storylines and stuff like that. However, I thought he wasn't needed, and I thought he was just shoved in there just to go, here's your nostalgia. However, if they'd have really thought about it, I think they could have used him better and maybe have moved on in general. And just another little thing which was in here, which was the black cat, which could not talk, so it was like useless, and was used in a cutscene at the end of the movie to basically promote a second movie of the new generation of Hocus Pocus movies, in which is going to be shit. Now though, I think it is time we move on to the ending. I know what many people are thinking. Why you put me through that torture again? I'm gonna have to. I apologise. So the ending basically revealed that these three girls are actually witches, and they help vanish the witches entirely after Winfred, who is the main, Winfred Sanderson, who is the main witch out of the three Sanderson sisters, helps to basically destroy both of her sisters unintentionally by doing this spell that makes her all great and powerful. However, she doesn't read that there's a sacrifice to be made in this particular scene, and then her sisters disappear and vanish, and then the witches at the end cast a spell in which sends Winfred back, because Winfred thinks, oh, it's going to bring them back here, but the girls send Winfred back to them. It's very confusing and a little bit shit, if I'm being honest. As to me, this was good for ending Hocus Pocus. If that was ending Hocus Pocus, brilliant. Hocus Pocus done, you move on. However, the thing that I hate about this movie is the fact that they introduced three new witches, in which, to me, that signifies Disney are doing it again. They're doing another sequel, they're doing another franchise of shit, awful sequels in which are unnecessary. If we're being honest with ourselves, did we need a second Hocus Pocus? No, because they did it all in the first movie. It was just a fan thing, and to me, I as a fan sort of wanted it, but sort of didn't want it, because the first one did it all already, and I didn't know how it was going to work, and I was right in that retrospect, because it failed in my eyes. But yeah, if it weren't for the three people coming back, like Bette Midler coming back, this movie would have sucked dick, honestly. It made no sense why it was made, the story weren't strong enough, and it was Disney doing its thing again, trying to make a sequel when they didn't need to. And we are definitely going to see a third movie being made. You wouldn't have added that end credit scene in there unless you were making a show or a movie on Hocus Pocus 3. Let's be honest. However, it would be wrong of me not to mention how good the original trio were, as you had Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy coming back, and they were awesome as the witches, bringing back the nostalgia aspects of the original, and they did it brilliant. And you couldn't ask anything else from them, and they helped carry the movie. If not, then it would have been a absolute bag of shit, in which it's just a little bit higher than a bag of shit. It's probably like a mouth of shit. Imagine that. You don't want a bag of shit being poured into your mouth, but you wouldn't mind a cobble. And I also didn't mind the likes of Doug Jones, who was in this movie, and Witney Peak, Lillia Buckingham Belissa Escobedo, plus many others. So to summarise this Hocus Pocus sequel, if you can even call it that, because it lives nowhere near up to the original, this to me just screamed a money grab and a waste of my time. Hence why I rate this movie a 6.6 and an average film, bang average. So let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Let me know down there, please. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell to be alerted to all the new content this channel creates. And I shall see you guys in the next one. Later.